So if I asked you to just, picture a global capital, what's the first city that pops into your head?
Right. For most people, it's going to be like New York or maybe Geneva.
Exactly. London, Paris, maybe Washington, D.C.
Sure, the classic Western power centers.
Right, because for decades, those cities have been the default. The undisputed centers of gravity for these massive global institutions.
Yeah, that's where the money and the decisions have always been.
But today, we are doing a deep dive into a city that is quietly but very permanently rewriting that entire map.
It really is.
We're talking about Nairobi, Kenya. We've got these fascinating excerpts from a piece called Nairobi, the rising global capital of the 21st century. And the mission for today's deep dive is to figure out why the United Nations is suddenly pouring, literally billions of shillings into expanding its headquarters there.
Yeah, and we really need to look at what that massive financial commitment tells us about this physical shifting of global power.
Because it's a huge deal.
It is. The sheer scale of this investment, it requires us to totally reframe how we think about international diplomacy. Like, we are looking at one of the largest single financial commitments the UN has ever made on the African continent.
Wow, ever.
Ever. This isn't just, a routine maintenance budget or a minor upgrade to a regional office so they can keep up appearances.
Right. It's not just a fresh coat of paint.
Exactly. An investment of billions of shillings implies a monumental shift in their global strategy.
It's a statement.
Right. It signals that an organization known for its deep roots in Western cities is physically anchoring its future in East Africa.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because when an institution like the UN opens its checkbook to that degree, they are placing a very calculated bet.
Oh, absolutely.
But to understand that bet, we have to look at the machinery that's already operating on the ground in Kenya.
Yeah, they aren't just starting from zero.
Right. The UN isn't just throwing a dart at a map of emerging markets and deciding to build some shiny new campus from scratch. Nairobi is already a powerhouse.
It really is.
It currently hosts the United Nations office at Nairobi, which holds a very specific and unique status.
Right, because it is the only UN headquarters located anywhere in the global south.
The only one.
Yeah. And that existing footprint is the critical foundation for this whole new expansion. The UN office at Nairobi isn't just like a localized administrative hub managing logistics for East Africa. It serves as the global nerve center for some incredibly consequential programs.
Like what kind of programs?
Well, we're talking about the worldwide headquarters for climate change initiatives, environmental protection, global housing policy.
Wow.
Urban development, and massive humanitarian aid operations.
So huge global issues.
Massive ones. These are programs that dictate policy, distribute billions in funding, and directly affect the lives of millions of people across the globe.
Which makes sense because, if you are the United Nations and your mandate is to tackle global housing crises and explosive urban development, you can't study those challenges from a snowy, quiet office in Switzerland.
Right? You really can't.
You need to be walking the streets of a city that is actually experiencing that hypergrowth in real time.
Exactly.
Sort of like a massive global conglomerate suddenly realizing that their flagship store, like their primary center of operations, physically needs to be relocated to where the actual customers are.
I love that analogy.
You just have to put your policymakers in the exact same environment as the problems they are trying to solve.
Right. And what's fascinating here is that the source text captures that perfectly. It says, global organizations understand that the future cannot be planned from a distance.
You have to be there.
You have to. You cannot govern, you can't distribute aid effectively, and you certainly cannot understand a rapidly changing geopolitical landscape if you are detached from it.
Right.
When decisions shaping the futures of millions are already happening in Nairobi, pouring billions of shillings into expanding that physical capacity just makes perfect logistical sense.
It's the logical next step.
Yeah. Exactly. The UN is recognizing that the geopolitical weight of the world is moving, and their physical infrastructure simply has to reflect that new reality.
But that brings up a deeper mechanism, though. When we talk about the geopolitical weight of the world moving, we are really talking about demographics.
Yeah, the numbers are wild.
The numbers highlighted in our source material are just staggering, and they explain the urgency behind this whole investment.
Let's hear them.
So first, Africa has the world's youngest population by a wide margin.
Right.
While Europe, North America, and parts of Asia are dealing with these rapidly aging populations and shrinking domestic workforces, Africa is just brimming with youth.
Yeah, the contrast is huge.
Second, the continent holds a massive concentration of the world's natural resources. And third, it is home to the fastest-growing cities on the planet.
Right, and the projection is that by the end of this century, 1 in every 3 people on the planet could be African.
1 in 3. Just let that sink in.
It's massive. And those 3 factors, a booming youth population, vast resources, and rapid urbanization, they compound each other.
How so?
Well, they create an environment of intense dynamic change. A young population means a massive future workforce, right? A wave of new tech innovators and an enormous emerging consumer market.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But on the flip side, it also means a desperate need for job creation, new education infrastructure, and climate resilience.
Right, the stakes are super high.
Very high. Any global organization that intends to remain relevant in the 21st century has to be physically embedded in that environment. You simply cannot ignore that concentration of human capital.
But wait, I have to push back a little here.
Sure.
The demographic argument makes perfect sense for Africa as a whole continent.
Yeah.
But Africa is massive.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredibly diverse. It spans dozens of rapidly growing nations with their own unique economies. So why is the UN putting all this money into Nairobi specifically?
It's a great question.
Why not Lagos, which has an exploding population and a huge economy? Why not Johannesburg in South Africa or Accra in Ghana?
Well, the decision to anchor in Nairobi comes down to a very specific strategic and geographical advantage.
Okay.
If you look at a map, Nairobi sits at an incredibly vital crossroads. It serves as a physical and logistical bridge between Africa, Europe, the Middle East, and Asia.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, because of that central location and its highly developed aviation links, it has organically grown into the premier hub-and-spoke model for the continent.
So it operates as a networking hub, essentially.
Exactly.
Because the source actually mentions that every single year, thousands of global leaders, climate experts, and international policymakers are already traveling to Nairobi for summits.
Yes, all the time.
Summits that influence decisions way beyond Kenya's borders. It's like it has the physical infrastructure of global diplomacy already built in.
That's spot on. The city already hosts a massive concentration of ambassadors, multinational corporate headquarters, and international development agencies.
They're already there.
They're there. And when you are a multinational corporation or a massive NGO trying to operate across Africa, you want to be where the other major players are.
Right. You want to be in the mix.
Exactly. You want to be where the diplomatic scaffolding is already in place, where the fiber optic networks are reliable, and where the international community is already comfortable operating. Nairobi has spent decades aggressively cultivating that exact ecosystem.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because bringing thousands of diplomats and policymakers into a city year-round doesn't just fill up conference schedules.
No, it doesn't.
It puts massive pressure on the local environment and completely transforms the city's economy. So we understand why the world is coming to Nairobi, but we really need to look at what actually happens to the city's ecosystem when the UN expands its footprint to host these massive international gatherings.
Right. The expansion creates an enormous economic ripple effect. When the UN builds new facilities and expands its mandate, it isn't just constructing empty office space. It is building the permanent capacity to bring thousands of high-spending individuals into the city on a constant rotating basis.
Yeah.
And that directly translates to a massive influx of foreign direct investment.
Let's attach a tangible explanation to that because, foreign direct investment can sound like abstract economic jargon.
Sure, fair enough.
It doesn't just mean overseas money passing through a local Kenyan bank. It means massive international tech companies, global finance firms, and foreign hotel chains are literally pouring concrete and building their own permanent headquarters right down the street from the UN.
Yeah, and the source material is very specific about the local sectors that stand to benefit from this ecosystem.
What does it point to?
It points directly to hospitality, transport companies, technology firms, and local security and logistics businesses.
Wow, so everything.
Basically, every time there is a major global summit on climate change or urban development, thousands of delegates fly in.
And they need high-end accommodation.
Right.
They require massive catering contracts. They need private, secure transport.
Yep.
But it goes deeper than that, too. I mean, local tech firms are hired to upgrade the digital infrastructure for these summits. Cybersecurity firms are contracted to protect the data of all these international delegates.
Exactly.
Local AI startups might even be utilized for real-time translation services during massive multinational meetings. All of that capital flows directly from the international community into the Kenyan private sector.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it creates a self-sustaining economic engine.
Okay.
Consider the analogy of a city winning the bid to host the Olympic Games.
Oh, yeah.
When a city hosts the Olympics, there is a sudden, massive influx of capital. Hotels are booked solid for years in advance, local transport services expand rapidly, and the entire city's infrastructure gets a massive cash injection to handle the global media and the crowds.
Right. But the critical difference being that the Olympics pack up and leave after 3 weeks.
Yeah.
They are a temporary sugar rush for a local economy.
Yeah.
And they often leave behind, empty stadiums and massive debt.
Exactly the opposite is happening here. What the UN is doing in Nairobi is a permanent structural boost.
Mm-hmm.
It is an economic engine driven by diplomacy that runs all year round, every single year, for decades.
Wow.
This expansion does more than just inject cash into the local economy. It acts as an economic flywheel. It solidifies Kenya's reputation as one of the most important diplomatic centers on the planet.
And reputation is an incredibly powerful currency in the global economy.
Oh, absolutely.
It serves as the ultimate seal of approval. When a global tech giant or a massive European financial firm is deciding where to base its African operations, they look at the UN.
Yep.
The logic is simple, like if the United Nations trusts Nairobi enough to invest billions of shillings and run its global environmental and housing operations from there, we can definitely run our regional corporate headquarters from there.
Exactly.
It just becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy of rapid urban growth.
But, and this is but pouring billions of shillings into a city and inviting the world's most powerful organizations to set up shop does not happen in a vacuum.
Right.
Rapid, hyper-concentrated growth comes with some very real and very heavy physical costs.
Yeah.
You cannot force that level of capital into a localized area and expect the city's infrastructure to magically absorb it without severely straining the social fabric.
So what does this all mean for the people actually living there? Because that forces us to look at the growing pains of global prominence.
Yeah.
The idealized vision of a thriving, wealthy global hub is fantastic for national GDP on paper. But the on-the-ground reality for the people living through that rapid transformation is often incredibly messy.
Oh, it's very messy.
As Nairobi becomes more attractive to these massive international organizations and their highly paid expatriate staff, the physical demands on the city just skyrocketed.
And the most immediate challenge is real estate and the gentrification effect. When you drop thousands of tax-exempt, internationally salaried diplomats into a local real estate market, the demand for housing and premium office space just explodes.
It's basic supply and demand.
Yeah, and the influx of high-income workers drives up the cost of living incredibly fast. That dynamic is highly lucrative for commercial property developers and landowners, sure. But it severely squeezes the middle and lower-class residents who can suddenly find themselves priced out of their own neighborhoods. We have seen this exact mechanism hollow out cities like San Francisco, Geneva, and London.
Yeah, it's a known issue. And beyond the housing crisis, there is the raw physical challenge of municipal infrastructure.
Right.
The roads, the power grids, the water supply, the waste management systems. Everything has to scale up simultaneously to keep pace with this explosive growth.
That's a huge undertaking.
And the text explicitly calls out one specific issue that anyone who has ever spent time in Nairobi will instantly recognize, which is traffic congestion.
Yeah, the source notes that traffic is already a major bottleneck in Nairobi. And it warns that it could become an even greater challenge as the city's global footprint expands.
It's not a joke.
No, this isn't just an annoyance for commuters. It is a serious logistical and economic threat. If you have thousands of diplomats, climate scientists, and business leaders flying in for a crucial global summit, they actually have to be able to get from the international airport to their hotels, and from their hotels to the UN headquarters.
Right. Which begs the question, can a city grow too fast? I mean, run the risk of choking on its own success.
Yeah.
It is wonderful that the local tech firms are booming and the high-end hotels are fully booked. But if a local business owner can't physically get their goods across town because the roads are choked with diplomatic convoys and heavy construction equipment, doesn't that permanent state of gridlock stall the very economic progress the UN is supposedly trying to build?
It's a huge risk.
Because if the city becomes unnavigable, it completely undermines the connectivity that made Nairobi attractive in the first place.
And this raises an important question because the growing pains are going to be incredibly acute and the risk of infrastructure lag is very real. Yes, a city can absolutely stall its own growth if its physical development cannot keep up with its economic appeal. However, we have to view these specific infrastructure challenges through the lens of the UN's financial commitment.
Right, they know what they're doing.
Exactly. The United Nations is fully aware of Nairobi's traffic issues. They are deeply aware of the strains on the power grid and the local water supply.
Yet they're still choosing to write the check.
They are. They have factored in these severe growing pains and made a calculated decision that the long-term trajectory of the city vastly outweighs the short-term friction.
Wow.
Ultimately, this billion-shilling investment is a massive vote of confidence in Kenya's ability to manage its own hypergrowth.
They believe in the city.
They really do. They are betting that the Kenyan government, the local tech ecosystem, and the private sector will rise to the occasion, innovate, and build the infrastructure necessary to support this new global capital status.
Basically, they are betting on the city's resilience.
Exactly.
They are effectively saying, the traffic is bad now, and the infrastructure is strained, but the future of the world is going to be debated here, so we trust you will figure it out.
Yeah.
It frames this not just as an aid package, but as a genuine partnership.
Right. And the most important conversations regarding the future of our species, climate adaptation, global housing, humanitarian crises, technological development, they are actively moving away from the traditional power centers of Europe and North America.
They're heading south.
They are moving to where the demographic future actually lives. The question, as the text brilliantly frames it, is no longer whether Nairobi is important to the world.
Right.
The real question we should all be tracking over the next few decades is just how central Nairobi will become as a defining 21st century capital.
So the next time you see a headline about the United Nations investing billions of shillings in Kenya or expanding a compound in East Africa, don't just picture a bunch of new glass and steel office buildings going up. Don't just picture bureaucratic meeting rooms. As our source material so powerfully states, this story is not really about office space. It is about influence. It is about economic opportunity. And fundamentally, it is about a deep, structural realization that Africa's future dictates the entire globe's future.
It shifts the center of gravity of the entire geopolitical world.
And that leaves us with a final thought for you to chew on today. We've talked extensively about how global influence and infrastructure inevitably follow massive demographic shifts.
Right.
If that remains true, if 1 in 3 people on planet Earth are projected to be African by the end of this century, how long will it be until other major global institutions are forced to follow the UN's lead?
Oh, that's interesting.
Right. Will massive financial bodies like the World Bank or the International Monetary Fund or huge cultural and trade organizations that are currently anchored in Western cities eventually be forced to physically relocate their headquarters to Africa just to remain relevant?
It's a real possibility.
If the flagship store truly needs to be where the customers are, Nairobi might just be the first of many massive global relocations. Keep an eye on the skyline the next time you picture a global capital. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.